Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We bellied up here on August 12th. I know you all missed us last week, but, things happen. Some of us actually still have to do other things in our lives. And if you've never been to Dallas, folks, if you want to know what it feels like, turn your husband and or wife or partner, whatever they are, blow dryer on and just ask them to blow that thing at you as you walk through it continuously all day long. I've been in deserts before and never have felt like that level of dry heat. So to make sure that I didn't feel the exact same way again, why not bring somebody from an absolutely rainy, gray area that, sunlight is a absolute virtual need for them, but they call him Sunshine anyway. So joining us all the way from the Seattle area, and as I always forget to turn all my media stuff on here, so let's go and make sure all that's going the right direction. But joining us all the way from up in the Seattle area to talk to us about what is the difference between military and civilian leadership and leadership styles, it's Mr. Doug Crandall. Hi, Doug.
Sean, thanks for having me.
I told you there's no rhyme, no reason behind the intros. It sounded pretty good though. Like it sounded like I planned it that way, like hot, dry in Dallas and then like rainy Seattle. That seemed pretty good to me. I've impressed myself with that one. So we're going to be talking about leadership, how leadership differs between civilian leadership and military leadership, and what things I would almost say either one of us could take from the other that would benefit us in the long run. And even some of those things that even though we would love for them to benefit us in the long run, we probably just can't do it. So as we're getting ready to go here, folks, as always, we're going to start with the big board over my right shoulder, sticker and a cause. You got something you believe in, something you're supporting, something you want other people to know about. What's up, Erin Michaela? Something you want other people to know about. Make sure you reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Our website is the abovethebarpodcast.com. And our email is the abovethebarpodcast@gmail.com. There's a great little blue ghost things you got there, Miss Michaela. So make sure you're reaching out to us and letting us know what you got going on there. Let's talk about the people that pay the bills around here. And I know they're in your area, Doug, because I just was meeting with them in Dallas. And that would be Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Hudson, Coxsackie, Schoharie, Delmar, and Clifton Park, and the newest addition, Lake George. They are North America's largest custom window treatment company, handling everything from blind, shade, shutter, drapery, window tint, you name it, they do it. And they handle everything from the measurements to the installation. They're taking care of everything, so you don't have to worry about any of it. They're there with you, getting that project taken care of. And if you're here in the capital region, this month it is 20% off of all product. Doesn't matter what it is, they're going to give you 20% off your product. And as always, folks, if you tell them you're there to belly up to the bar, they're going to give you an extra 5% off that entire order. So make sure you're reaching out to your local Budget Blinds. And again, if you're here in the capital region of New York, reach out to Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Hudson, Coxsackie, Schoharie, Delmar, Clifton Park, and Lake George. And they're going to make sure you get it well taken care of. All right there, Mr. Doug. So all the house cleaning stuff is done, out of the way. How are things in Seattle? It looks like sunshine there, so I'm not buying it.
It is, yeah. I mean, you've like little mischaracterization. Generally, you're correct, but really nice day today.
So it's a special kind of day out there, huh?
No hair dryers, yeah.
You know, it's absolutely insane, though, that I learned about Seattle. Albany, New York wants to be Seattle, right?
I can see that.
It absolutely does, because here, so you know what Albany, New York's nickname is?
I don't.
Tech Valley.
Wow. Would not have guessed.
Tech Valley, because they have all these technology companies and everything out here. And then add to it, we're on the same exact parallel.
That makes sense, yeah.
And we actually get more rain than you do.
There you go.
We have more precipitation. Those are all stupid facts, folks, that are going to do you no good whatsoever. But, Doug, let's get a little bit of a breakdown. So we were talking about this beforehand. So you're a West Point graduate.
Yes, sir.
I won't ask what year, but West Point graduate, um, Walmart executive. You did 13 years in the Army. Worked with Walmart, ran a leadership program for them. Did you have to live in Arkansas for that?
It was a second home. I lived in a DoubleTree hotel in Bentonville, Arkansas, quite a bit.
Oh, that is, gosh, I have to remember it after we get done. I can't think of the name right now, but I did window treatments for one of the guys that was an original Sam Walton VP that he hired.
Uh-huh.
I did window treatments for his daughter, an older woman now, but for his daughter in the Hudson Valley area. But so you did that, and then going through all these different things that you've done, framework building on two forces that shape every interaction. You went through all this, and then you did this crazy thing and decided to write a book.
Yeah.
What? Why would you do so? Why would you do that?
I mean, Sean, believe it or not, I actually enjoy writing. I don't enjoy selling, and the selling part of the book for me is harder than the writing. So,
Isn't it? Well,
yeah,
I mean, we get writers on all the time, and I'm always like, it's an amazing thing to write a book, to put your ideas to paper. But it's getting everybody to listen to it. What was it when you were putting this together that you felt like, you know what? I need to get this out to other people. They need to hear this.
yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, this one in particular, building or diminishing, it just changed me. Like this simple question that I started asking myself, especially with my adult kids, like, are the things coming out of my mouth building them up or diminishing them? Making them feel more confident, capable, valued, just better about themselves. And that doesn't mean what you're saying is always just compliments and stuff, but just is there an intent behind what I'm saying? And I threw that up on a slide one time. I do a lot of teaching with the adult leadership programs, and just threw up that question, like, just for people to think about: am I building or diminishing? We had one person in particular that said that question over the course of a 6-month program changed them more than anything else we did in the program. That they started thinking as they were walking into work every morning. This was a doctor, and he said, he just started to tell himself, when you go in today, build your nurses, don't diminish them. And it was a simple idea, and I knew it had changed me, and so I love telling stories, and the book comes through in a lot of story form. So I just decided to go with that.
I couldn't imagine anyone in the service that would likes to tell stories. We're such now. Do you ever have to? I don't know if the Army has this one. Do you have the? I don't know if the Army has this one. Do you have in the Army the difference between a sea story and a no shitter?
I have not heard that, Sean. No.
That's a Navy Marine Corps thing. So you have a sea story, which is, see, I knew this guy. See, there was this guy told me.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were always had a little bit like you had to take that with a grain of salt. But
Sure.
if a guy looked at you and went, dude, listen, this is a no shitter, man. This just happened. That means he actually had that event happen in his life and he saw
Sure.
it firsthand. So that's the difference between a sea story and a no shitter.
Awesome. I can't believe I haven't heard that. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it is? It's that we all lived in the same house, just on different floors.
Yeah.
But now, so you're going through this and you're deciding to build this. And I mean, I think it's an incredible question. I'll be really honest with you. Asking the question of, am I building people up or am I diminishing them? Just asking that question every time you walk through a doorway.
Hmm.
Really, it's so powerful. I mean, even as you're saying it and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, because we just had a big conversation. I'm going to get your feelings on this. I just had a big conversation with my whole team about perspective.
Hmm.
And perception is reality. Listen, folks, it's the reality of where you're at. Because I had a CWO4 tell the same thing to me. He's like, Murph, you could be doing the greatest things in the world, but if perception is that you're a jerk, you're a jerk.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, gosh, that really worked on me. But I'm curious, when you think about these things and that question of, are you building people up or are you providing diminishing returns at that point? Did that come from anything you saw in your time in the Army, or was this something that came from the Walmart environment? How did you even develop that question?
It's a great question, Sean. It's funny. We have a previous book that I wrote with a colleague about 10 years ago called Permission to Speak Freely. The original title was Say Anything, and a publisher picked it up. And Say Anything was a really good, as you remember, probably late 80s movie, and they want us to change the title away from that. I really like the first title because the concept was like I can say anything. And that, like, if you asked me that question on that book, I had a couple moments. One was a time my dad just admitted he was wrong after I'd called him out at soccer practice in 6th grade and in front of the whole team. And he came by a couple days later, and it was just about like whether you leaned over the ball or leaned back to get it up in the air. And he just said, "Hey, you were right, and I was wrong." And I just remember that freeing me to feel like even as a kid that I could say, what I was thinking, even if I didn't do it right. And I had a moment in the Army as a young lieutenant where I almost fired a tank round that could have killed people had I given the fire command.
Oh,
but
shit.
But an NCO behind me, at the Joint Readiness Training Center down in the woods in Louisiana, said, "Don't fire at that one," just like 0.2 of a second before I was about to give the command. And that really was a seminal thing I made meaning of was, boy, I'm glad that guy, I felt empowered to say in that moment, even though he couldn't hear our internal communications and he just saw our gun tube and he was just, saying something potentially from his vantage point, just in case. And I say all that to say, like, that book had a beginning. I actually started, unfortunately, can't point to like the moment where I started asking myself this question of building or diminishing. In the book, I do tell a story about applying to teach at West Point and having 2 different interviews. And the one in the morning, this lieutenant colonel used some sarcasm, kind of made me feel crappy. I didn't know whether it was like part of their game or their culture or whatever. And it wasn't like it was, poor me. I just kind of walked out like, "Oh, I'm not good enough to teach here." And in the afternoon, I went and met this guy named Colonel Casey Brower, and he just made me feel the opposite. He's like, "You're awesome. Like, we want you here." They both ended up selecting me to teach. Like, so it was, it's just different approaches to making me feel a certain way. So I did go back to that in the book, but that was not the genesis of this. I really think it was our youngest son lived with my wife and I for 3 years as his siblings had moved out, and he was just with us, like his sophomore through senior year of high school. And that COVID was during that time. And so we were spending a lot of time with him. He's a sensitive kid. And I don't know. Something just developed into me. Like with my 4th one, I'd learned all these lessons about things I'd done wrong as a parent. And just started really focusing on not saying it to him if it wasn't going to help, and
I love that. I mean, well, because what was coming to mind to me when we're thinking about the differences here. And look, folks, if you're interested again in what Doug's got going on, you want to know more about it, the website is buildingordiminishing.com. You can see what he's got going on. But what kind of jumped off at me is in the Marine Corps, we were very quick to everybody gets yelled at, everybody gets crossed. It doesn't matter. And I grew up in that. I was in an artillery unit. You were talking about tanks. I was in an artillery unit my first 4 years. And I can remember a first sergeant saying, if somebody screws up, every NCO within 100-meter kill radius better be on that ass, because that was an artillery round's kill radius was 100 meters. So he expected that every NCO, and I adopted that. And it wasn't until like years later, like you said, for me, it was my dad saying to me, "Hey, son, do you have to be an asshole to everybody?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "They're Marines. They need this." But it really, like when you left the Army and some of those leadership things that, like that, how did that, where did you see one of those pieces of that civilian leadership that you've learned now? What would that have affected how you led in the Army?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, so on one thing, I have this mentor. I hate calling him a mentor because he's like a father figure. He was a PE teacher at my high school and taught my older siblings. His name is Bruce Brown. He's in his 80s now, but he's just an incredible. He's that teacher that everyone that had him would run through a wall for him. Have kept in touch with him. But he has an organization called Proactive Coaching, and he gives a lot of advice to parents about youth sports and coaches. And I saw a quote on his LinkedIn maybe a year ago, and it said, the most effective leaders are unapologetically demanding and relentlessly positive. And that really launched me. He asked, why did I decide to write a book? Well, we started sharing that quote as well in our program, and it really stuck. And I think I only saw that quote a year ago, and it's changed me profoundly just in this year, where it's not about, I want to win. I want to be great when I'm in an organization. I coached a lot of basketball. I wanted to win every time we took the court. But they're not mutually exclusive. Like you can demand excellence and do it in a way that's like, hey, I know you're better than this. We don't do it that way. It doesn't have to come with making people feel crappy. It certainly should come with holding high standards and making people like me, like raising the bar and getting over it. But I think that's what I would go back and do differently. Like I can look back at times in the Army where it just felt like what you learned was, I mean, I was told as a company commander to fix a dysfunctional culture. And the way I did it was by being incredibly demanding. But my first sergeant pulled me aside one day about a year into it. And was like, sir, every time you come out to training, everyone just braces for you to find stuff that's wrong. And you're never telling us what we're doing right. And it hit me like he hit me in the face with it. And I trusted him. He was a great NCO and he was right. But I did not see it because I was focused on the mission, you know.
Brother, I get that 110%. 110%. And again, folks, if you're joining us, if you have questions for Doug, you're wondering about, maybe you have a leadership question, something you think that would be relevant, maybe something you're curious of that you've run into, you were in the military and now you wonder how to take that the other way. How about the other side to the coin? Things that you've seen in the military when you were in the Army that you've brought over, or you wish more civilian companies would do? Because I definitely have opinions on that, but stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, for me, I'll just be straight up. My big culture shock was HR, and I'm not putting HR people down specifically. It's just the best leaders in the Army. I'm not saying everything's like this, but the best ones you run into care about you profoundly. You know, like if your wife's struggling, if you're whatever, your life is their responsibility in a way. Like, you know, I mean, if your E4 is not getting paid, that is your responsibility.
You're on that ass.
Yeah, you're not doing anything else until that guy's getting his paycheck, and you eat last, and you take care of your soldiers. These things where like it's just like driven into you who you are, that you take care of people. No, not every leader in the military does that by any stretch, but I think that is like the best ones you see. And I ended up in a company where that's what I brought in that I think was good, and just got crushed by the fact that, well, this is HR's job. And like, no, you're not responsible for this. Like, you just need to focus on the metrics and the KPIs. And I did it anyway. Like, I mean, I couldn't not care about these people. I'm not saying I'm some awesome guy. It was just like, no, I want to care about these people's lives. And in this organization, at least, they'd never had that before. I had so many people telling me that for 7 years, they just felt like a number, and then somebody knew their name and whatever. So I think the best leaders in the military do a great job with that. Like, you feel cared for by the best leaders you have.
I absolutely agree with that. For me, it's always nobody in the civilian world wants you to be trained to do their job. We train everybody. That sergeant in the Marine Corps is training to do the staff sergeant's job. That staff sergeant training to do the gunny's job. Nowhere in the civilian world would you ever have that bank teller training to be the bank manager.
Yeah,
because that bank manager is like, you're not taking my job.
Right.
And it's this great fear that the other person's going to take your job, instead of saying, hey, you've done such an amazing job, we can promote you to somewhere else, or you could be promoted out of here. That's the one for me that I'm always mind boggled by. And it's that fear that someone's going to take from you. What are some of the things, though, in the book itself? And again, folks, talking with Doug here about his book, Building or Diminishing. You can check it out, buildingordiminishing.com. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in there. I appreciate everybody who's logging in today. You talk about here the builders set high standards, the drivers demand high performance, the cheerleader creating positive communication, and the belittler combines low expectations. What are some, like, talk to me a little bit about these. Are these personalities? Are these just processes? What is this supposed to kind of represent?
Sean, honestly, it's like, to me, it's a reflection tool. I'm not big on labeling people, you know, but that said, like, when you write a book like this, I'm also, I want to sell the idea. And I'll point out here as well, Sean, one, I do suck at sales. I just have a tough time. I don't want anyone to think that I'm selfish. I'm doing this out of self-interest and like I'm trying to sell books. I really believe in this idea. We're giving all proceeds to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Like, literally
nice.
like all the proceeds. Like, I'm not going to make a single dollar on any book one of these books that's sold. And that truly does come because I think this can help people treat the people they lead better, treat the kids better. So anyway, getting back to that, people like grid. They like 4-box grids, and like just they're way different. Some people don't, and other people do. But to help people understand an idea, we created these 4 archetypes, but they're not labels. And it's not to say you're this. It's just to help you reflect. So down in the bottom left is a belittler, and the belittler thinks you suck and tells you, right? And it's just toxic leadership. We don't spend a ton of time on it in the book, but that's the person who they're raising your cortisol levels. You're going home with high blood pressure. And there's a lot of that out there, right? Like where my boss is just a jackass and it is impacting like my entire life. The 2 that really we hone in on is the driver in the top left is someone with incredibly high standards, but never really tells you you're doing a good job. And I actually in the book use some positive examples. Herb Brooks, the coach of the 1980 Miracle on Ice Olympic hockey team. And I do that on purpose to say these people get results. There's a bunch of really good leaders out there who are drivers, and they are focused on the mission. They feel, and sometimes rightly so, you just need to do your job. I don't need to be telling you all the time that you're doing a great job. Like we're here to accomplish the mission. But we dig into some of the costs of that, and there are costs, burnout and anxiety and different things. And then the bottom right is the cheerleader, who's really good at relationships, good at building your confidence, but often lowers the bar because they're avoiding the tough conversation or don't want to hurt your feelings, or like they're so optimistic that they think you're doing good enough when you could be doing better. And I've been both, like absolutely been both in my life. And the top right is the builder, which is I have incredibly high standards and I help build your belief. And that goes to Bruce Brown's quote that we can do both. We can be unapologetically demanding and relentlessly positive at the same time. But really what I've seen, and Sean, I've got a lot of like texts from friends, messages as people have read this book. And most people are looking at it and saying, hey, I'm a driver and I need to start building my people more without lowering my standards. And then a lot of cheerleaders who are recognizing like, yeah, I mean, I'm really good at the relationship stuff, but I can see places where I'm letting mediocrity exist because I haven't addressed it and I'm being too positive. And so it's really those people kind of figuring out how to get to the top right.
It's an incredible, and I love that you mentioned them as archetypes and not necessarily personalities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can see how we can, but I guess in my mind, something that popped up as I was listening to you and as I was reading about these is that kind of that idea that, you're not stuck in one of these. You can be a builder for an employee that you really do well with, that you really think has a lot of potential, but very quickly be the driver for the one that he can do better, but God, I just want you to do it and be done with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I see this so quickly, how you can bounce between all of them and not even realize it.
For sure. No, great. I mean, that's good. That's as well as I've kind of heard it put, Sean. And I love the point that, yeah, it can be, because I have thought of it. And I talk about in the book in different periods of my life where I went like kind of ditch to ditch and went too far and became a cheerleader when I was a driver. But you're absolutely right. It can be just with different people.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about my team right now. Like I know who's the touchy feely person that I got to kind of, hey, listen, I can build him and I can drive him, but the minute I would belittle him, he's gone. He's gone. I would lose him for the rest of the day. I can't even do that. I got one that I know you're missing the archetype. And maybe you can tell me which one this is. The dad, the dad archetype that goes, I know you can be better. I'm just feeling very disappointed right now.
Yeah.
Which one is that one? Where does that one fall in? Is that it's not the driver?
I think that's getting into builder. Like if you're intentionally like, this person, you're holding them to a standard, using maybe what pushes their buttons. Yeah.
I'm so disappointed. I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed. I can still remember the first time I had like a I don't remember if he was a sergeant, staff sergeant, like look at me like, hey, Marine, I'm sorry. It's not your fault. It's mine. I should have trained you better. I should have done better. This is what happened. And you're like, no, I can do it. I had one of those. So with this book, and I'm always curious this because it's a personal thing, audio version. Do we have an Audible?
There is. Yeah. And I'll just confess openly, like the Amazon publishing is pretty amazing these days. this is the fourth book I've been part of. The previous three were all published. A couple by actually really big publishing houses, and the last one by sort of a smaller publishing house in the Bay Area. There's not a ton of benefit to being published, honestly. Like by a house, like you give up a lot of control, and so I just decided to do this one myself. And Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing is a great platform, and they create an audio version. You get to pick your AI voice, and I will admit I have not listened to the entire thing and how well it came off, but listened to parts of it to test it out. And so there's an audio version. I think it's priced at $9.11 intentionally to kind of point to that tunnel to tower support. Yeah, there you go.
I just pulled it up. Building or Diminishing, and I'm going to add it to my library right now.
Nice.
So it's in my library. I just have to finish The Ideal Team Player. I have to finish that one first.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. You know, nothing personal. I just need to finish that one. Have you read that one?
Is that Patrick Lencioni? Is that?
Yes, Patrick Lencioni.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. So,
listen, it's completely sidebar. We're gonna left turn for a minute. You know who my favorite one is, though? I can absorb and eat everything he has ever written, spoke on, forever. You know who it is? Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar.
Oh wow, that's cool. A little old school. That's awesome.
Well, it kind of fits into what you were kind of the things you were telling me reminded me of Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
Zig was never a negative guy. Zig was never going to be like like a Tony Robbins, like, you suck, and you suck because you suck, and you're going to always suck. But if you want to get better, suck less. Zig would have been like, hey, did you open your Bible? I didn't start opening my Bible till I was 40 years old, man. Did you open it? Did you hold a door for somebody today and just smile at them and say, hope you have a wonderful day, and that made you feel better, so you had a better day, so you did better? Like, that was Zig.
Yeah.
These other ones today are all like, fire them. They all suck. You can't just be nice to somebody.
Yeah.
There's another one when it comes to military and civilian leadership. Do you ever find that when you present information like this, where this is, I want to call it touchy-feely, because it's not real touchy-feely, but it's man hug. Does that make sense? It's a man hug, like the arm in the middle, pat on the back, and people kind of go, well, wait a sec, weren't you were in the Army for 13 years? Why is your book so, focused on people's feelings and emotions? You're not supposed to be that guy. Do you ever get that feedback from anybody?
Yes. I mean, not as direct as that, but I mean, Sean, honestly, the development of the book, which I think worked out really well. I started out doing talks on this, so I kind of skipped that step in how I got to writing it. I mean, I had a question on a slide, and then it became like a keynote, and I was doing the keynote just on the building or diminishing idea, like how our words are making people feel. And I could sense it. Like I could sense I'll stereotype a little bit here, but the CFO in the room or the orthopedic surgeon in the room, it felt a little soft. And so that's where the layering in of expecting excellence came in. And we do spend, I think I spend just as much time in most of the book on this idea of having high standards, because we got to accomplish missions in the military. We got to make sure we are accomplishing the mission, that keeping people alive to the extent we can, enforcing safety standards, like all these things that are tough, that are required of leadership, that are required of young leaders. So tried to really lean into that in the book, that it is both, like it is excellence in achieving the mission. But I do get that. I mean, there's no doubt. And I think, I even have a personal belief that cheerleaders are going to have more of a tendency to look at it and say, hey, I need to raise my standards, than drivers are going to look at it and say, I need to start building people's confidence. And I don't have research on that, and it's just sort of anecdotal at this point, but it's if I had to go to Vegas and bet money on that, I'd probably bet some money on it.
Now with all your training and working with teams and doing all these things, and again, you said this started as a slide, became a keynote, became an entire presentation, it sounds like. Do you ever work with teams on making sure they understand who should be in what role? And what I mean by that is I could see where an organization full of builders may get a lot done really, really fast, but have no ability to deal with failure. Does that make sense? Like the
Yeah.
minute something starts to fail, these
Mhm.
guys are just out there. They're going, you know what, guys, the standard is high. We're excellent. We can do this. Sir, the house is on fire, but we can
Yeah.
do this. We only have one cup of water and we can all make it happen. Like,
Yeah.
do you work with teams to be like, hey, somebody here has to be the builder and somebody's got to be the driver? The cheerleader is great, you know, and every so often, I'm gonna be honest with you, that belittler gets shit done.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, for sure.
But have you
We're
ever
not
worked about that?
we're not deep enough, honestly, into the work with it. I mean, we work with a lot of C-suite teams, and we get them talking about those roles, but we haven't done that specifically with this. I think it's a great concept, and it makes me think something that I would add about the book is I want people to be asking themselves that question. Like that's one of my goals is that people walk away just thinking about that question: am I building or diminishing? But in addition, the book is written like you're in a classroom to me, and
Okay.
it's pushing you to reflect. Reflect on that question: who on our team needs to be this? How do I show up? How do I show up for this person? And do I need to shift that? So there's an undertone of the book, and even the whole introduction is just kind of the idea about a growth mindset and helping ourselves grow as leaders. And I intentionally use a lot of stuff I've screwed up myself to just try to get people thinking about it. So I think that that's a great concept. We're probably not deep enough into it yet to have done that, but the book certainly sets it up for people to sit back together in a team and think about, hey, okay, yeah, where am I and how is this working? And there was one chapter in the book about a team concept, like bringing one of each together and becoming the collective builder as a whole. So
Well, when you start selling out stadiums, training in this, and you're donating over there the tunnels and towers, I just need 1% of the donation
absolutely,
have
yeah.
my name on it. Just 1%. Like it was this guy's idea. You
Will
know,
not forget you, Sean. Yeah, that's
that's all I'm
awesome.
asking for. 1%. It's just
Yeah.
like I have people that are on here and they're like act like they're actors, maybe done a couple of shows, smaller stuff. I'm like, listen, one day I just want to be on the red carpet. I'm looking for one person to call me like, hey, dude, I'm on the red carpet. You coming? Just so I can go. That's all I'm looking for.
That's
So
fair.
so then with something like this, and I want to stay with the training side to it because that's what I find super
Mhm.
fascinating about stuff like this. And again, folks, if you're interested in what Doug's got going, it's buildingordiminishing.com. We're talking about the differences between military and civilian leadership, how this all works. You talked about, a couple of different people in your career, but you also mentioned some stories of messing up. What are some of the stories that where you got a little, and listen, this is a good term for you. This term will sound very familiar. When you were all cattywampus, this
Yeah.
when you were all cattywampus and the gunny or whoever it was you had in the army had to come over and say, hey, sir, let's go ahead and fix this. But what's some of the stories that you're using for this book that really are impactful?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I shared the one, just about as a company commander not being aware of kind of how I was making people, basically diminishing people by always finding stuff wrong. It's interesting because I think in that case we did get better, and we had standards that need to be improved, and my way of going about it was that way. But I was doing it and unaware of how I was impacting people, and it didn't need to be that way. So that's the lesson from that story. Is I could have done both. I could have raised the standards and still made sure that I wasn't diminishing people along the way. I share one from a cheerleader perspective where I was a high school basketball coach for several years, and I have a particular player, and I was using her name originally, but I ended up changing her name because you can see why in the book she ended up calling and sharing some information I wanted to include in the book, but that didn't want her name to go along with it. But Maddie, I call her in the book, became a Division I basketball player and had a great career. She just finished up,
Wow.
went to 3 NCAA tournaments, scored 23 points in a game against a Power Five school, and I kind of talked about how I feel like I built her confidence in high school, but I think she actually wanted me to hold her more accountable on a regular basis to work harder on defense, to have a better shot selection. And then when I look back, I was so focused on the relationship, building her confidence, that I missed an opportunity to raise the bar for her. And I really admired how her college coach was tough as nails, and she got the most out of Maddie for sure. So that's an example I used about myself. There are others, and I
Was it
end
Caitlin?
up. What's
Was it
that?
Caitlin? Was it Caitlin? Is that who Caitlin played?
Yeah. Kayla, everything Kayla did in college was a result of my coaching. Yeah, no.
We're just gonna call her Maitland Mark. You know, this girl, she was Maitland Mark. It was had not, just couldn't get her to go. That's incredible, dude. That you really but see that's curious to me. Like, you coach somebody at that level. The other side to it is, do you feel that from a leadership standpoint, and you were in that cheerleader role, not so much that it was maintaining a relationship because you could see the potential, but were you also concerned that if you'd have becoming that driver or that builder, that you were going to damage what was there?
Yeah, so I'll finish the story. Like, people can
Yeah,
skip
I'm
this.
sorry.
No, I wasn't going to finish it, but since you bring it up, you can read. So actually, it's the one chapter where I qualify all the time. I'm not a musician. I can't dance. I was just at a wedding, and I can't dance. I can't sing. But I feel like this book, I wrote it a little bit like jazz music, or how I understand jazz music. As things were happening in my life, I was taking them and bringing them into the book. And so I had finished this chapter about me being a cheerleader, and my wife and I were sitting in our room right over here one night, and Maddie, as I called her, this is why I changed her name, because she called us up. And she, with all this stuff going on in NCAA basketball, she thought she was going to potentially get a 5th year. And she was first team all conference in her small conference. And so she was getting recruited by big time schools. And she called up, and she was tearful. Like, she started to share that she had been to 3 NCAA tournaments. She had done all this stuff, but none of it was fun. That she was burnt out, that her coach had pushed all of them so hard that they were just stressed all the time, anxious, that even when they won a league championship, as the coach came into the locker room, they didn't know if they could celebrate. And my wife and I had been to 8 of her games in person over her college career. I watched a bunch of her games on TV. They played phenomenal basketball. Like, I really do admire her coach. Her coach knew hoops. And from the outside, I was saying, wow, look at what she got out of Maddie. And then we get this phone call, and you could hear the diminishment through the phone. And Maddie, who's a tough kid, was basically just like releasing after 4 years. None of it was fun. And she was saying, I am looking for a program, because I was helping her connect to one of the programs. I'm looking for a program where I have a coach who does both, who can get the most out of me, but makes it fun, cares about me. And so I just added that like postscript to that chapter. I took her coach's name out, and I took the program out. I still think her coach is a great basketball coach, but yes, and then I look back and say, well, it is tough to strike that right balance, because I know in high school she still did really well. She got to a D1 school. I was only a small part of that, but I do know I helped build her confidence. And maybe I could have pushed her too hard but I feel like I would have been more in a place now to lead her better after writing this book, reflecting on it, and really thinking how you balance both, where I hadn't thought about that 4 or 5 years ago.
See, but I see that so differently than you. It's interesting, because as I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, you're like, oh, I was just, no, you weren't a cheerleader. To me, that you weren't, because as I'm hearing you right now, if you weren't beyond the cheerleader and that builder that you're talking about, she wouldn't have called you. Because if she'd have called, if you were the driver or any of the other ones, she wouldn't have called you, because she needed real advice, real information, quantifiable things from somebody who wasn't just going to go, Maddie, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. You're a good egg. You gave real quantifiable information that she was able to use. I don't know if she went on to a 5th year, or she's playing in the WNBA or whatever, but I mean, I'm going to have to pump you up a little bit, brother. Hearing your story, I'm like, maybe you were a cheerleader in high school, and that's the way you saw it. She didn't see it that way.
I appreciate that, Sean. And it's funny. It actually directed back to something about the book. Is I break the fourth wall or whatever several times and just say, I don't even know if I'm right here. Like, and I recognize that that's not what everybody's used to in reading a book. I mean, you read a lot of stuff and the authors are telling you like how it's done and this is it. And I'm just fully admitting, like, as I go through this book, this is an exploration of an idea that has helped make me better, that I think can help make you better. But, if I was still writing a book, I might include this conversation, so I think it's just, my goal with it is to just get people reflecting and thinking about it. And I'm open to the fact that, that you're right about that one and I'm wrong. So sure, I'll take it. I was a builder.
I'm just saying, man, like it really feels, and that's one of the things I'm really enjoying about this in this conversation is the fact that the things that you're talking about, you're like, hey, this isn't scientifically set in stone. These are life experiences, things we've done, things that we were able to put together. I just like the fact of how you did that. How about from the people around you? Like, we all have, like, I think the biggest critic you should have is your spouse. Personally, I want my that's the one person that if they're going to tell me I'm jacked up like a football bat, that's who I want to hear it from.
Sure.
Because I can respect it and they know what was put into it. When you presented it to your wife, hey, this is another book I'm doing. Did she read it or was she like, that's good, Doug? And she just like walked away.
Sean, I love this because she was just telling me, I didn't read your previous book. She just told me this the other day. Like, so the permission to speak freely one I talked about. She read this one. I mean, she had to hear a lot of it as we're going along anyway, because I'm reading it out loud. How do you think this sounds? But she read this one, and I love that because she's a kindergarten teacher. She's not active right now, but she was for a number of years. I actually use her as an example in the book. She goes with me when I teach a lot, and I tell a story about how she called me out because she felt like I was making driver seem better than cheerleader. And I think she was right. So she helped with it, but she actually did read this one. And the reason I love that is because I truly think this book is for anybody. I have a friend from high school. We sent out a bunch of copies to like our Christmas list, and Amy read it, and she leads a team of teachers down in California. She's like their professional development person. I think she's a second grade teacher, and she bought it for all her teachers to read. I just really think I've had two really close friends who wrote me and said, I got this right at the right time because I just had a crappy conversation with my 24-year-old daughter. I diminished her, and I need to go back and fix that. So I really wrote it, Sean. Like, if no one reads this except my 4 adult kids, like, I'm good. Like, I wrote this because I believe in it and just kind of freedom in that. If it sells 10 copies, that's great. If it sells 10 million, I'd love it. And Tunnel of Towers would probably love it. But yeah, so to that point, in this case, I have heard that from my wife before, but this one she read, and she's and she liked it, and it, and we're very different. She is absolutely a cheerleader. I talk about that in the book, and she's content being a cheerleader, and so as a kindergarten teacher, she's like exactly in the right spot, and she doesn't need to be different. It's just an awareness of, hey, this is who I am, and this is how I want to do it.
All right, I want you to hold on because we got to get almost closing time here at the bar, and I've got a question. I'm gonna put you on the spot here in a second because you said you had 4 kids. I'm gonna put you on the spot here in a second. All righty, folks. It's August is here, and we're right in the heart of the summer. The days are still long, the evenings are warm, and there's plenty of time left for backyard fires, good friends, and conversations that go a little later than planned. This episode is brought to you by New Scotland Spirits, handcrafted right here in upstate New York. So before everyone starts rushing into fall, slowing things down, enjoying what's left of the summer, and pour something worth sharing, visit newscotlandspirits.com and find your next bottle. New Scotland Spirits, good whiskey, good company, make the summer last longer. All right, 4 kids, 4 archetypes. If I went to your kids today, what do you think each one of them would refer to you as? If I said, I don't know your kids, Joe, Sue, Bob, Jane, Adam, I don't know. If I asked them, what do you think each one would consider your archetype?
Man, that is a great question. I think the younger one, if he was really being honest, the youngest would say cheerleader because it's just more, he's the one that was with us for 3 years. I was really worried about his feelings during COVID, and I've also coached all of them, so that's really interesting as well. So the older, I think, would say I was a driver who turned into a builder, the oldest one. And I've been really cognizant of that. I think I made a lot of mistakes early on with him, being an overzealous dad. And so I think he'd go driver to builder. Our second one, I'm honestly not sure. I'm asking. He's here today. I might ask him. Like, sorry, Sean. And then
let's ask him.
Yeah, our daughter. Actually, I can go get him right now. Our daughter.
Tell your wife to go get him right now. I'm so curious. Tell your wife.
I'll text him to come in here.
I'm curious because I find that absolutely, and I'm put him on the spot. He's probably like, I'm coming on
there. All right, I texted her. We'll see if she gets.
We'll see.
Our daughter. So interestingly enough, our daughter is a 4th generation West Point graduate. So my dad,
congratulations,
my mom's dad, and she graduated in 22, and that is, and we're probably the most alike, she and I. So I think she'd probably say builder. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I think with her being the daughter and me being cognizant of her being really high standards, I pushed her in certain ways, but I was also absolutely there for her through some tough times at West Point where she was being diminished, and I helped her, not like you said, not like, hey buddy, you're the best, but to get through it and see it. So, but Sean, I will say I have a tough time giving myself credit. I think I've arrived at this point as a builder for all of them. You gotta come on the live podcast right now.
Yep, come on in.
This is Sean.
Come on there. Who do we got here?
Yeah, this is Jason, Sean. So I'm super proud of him. He was a walk-on basketball player at the University of Washington. Also played in the tournament. But he wants to know how you would describe me.
So do you know? So Jason, my name's Sean. You're on the Above the Bar podcast right now. So and it's live. So we'll see who shows up. Why are you turning red and smiling all nervous like? Okay. So here's the question. So have you read Dad's book? Let's just start with that.
I'm somewhat through. Yes, I understand. Yeah.
Right. So you know the four archetypes.
Yeah.
So if you were going to say my dad falls into this, and listen, you're safe. You're in a safe place. I don't think he's going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were going to give him one of 4 archetypes, what would it be?
I think how I view him, because he was my coach. So that's like the time where I've seen him as a leader. I'd probably say more towards the cheerleader box, which I think he said he kind of has been like that as a coach. But I think I was even evaluating myself, and I think a lot of how I've been a coach, a leader as a coach, was learning from him. And I think I've even caught myself reading it saying, it's kind of an interesting concept, because I think I found myself being a cheerleader as a coach too. But we've talked about that idea of you can still be caring for people and know that they know you care about them, but hold them to a high standard. And I think that's what he says in the book. But I would say, especially because I was going back 10, 12 years ago, where I think it was still that part. He wanted everyone to have that confidence and feel encouraged in what they were doing. But knowing, okay, you can still hold someone, you can still criticize someone, you can still say, hey, you need to work on this. This is an area for improvement. And that's actually a way of being a good leader. Like, you're not leading them in the right way if you're not holding them to the standard that they can get to. So that's how I think my experience with him, which he probably has changed since then. But I haven't seen him that much in the leadership capacities outside of being a coach.
Doug, you did something right with that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to give you that one. And Jason, you said you coach also?
Yeah. So I've coached middle school basketball for 4.5 years, the last 4 years with the program of middle schoolers that all would go to the high school that I went to, Issaquah High School. So that's been, fun.
Not too shabby. Well, I'm going to assume that everybody in your household, Doug, is over 6 feet.
There were not, actually. This guy got the height, so he's actually 6. He's 6 foot even. But
and I feel better.
At a point in time, had the second highest vertical leap on the University of Washington. All no joke, no false humility, all from his mom's side. His mom's a great athlete. So,
listen, I give you a lot of credit. I mean, just hearing this and hearing the way you're talking about your dad, and the leadership that you've gained from him, the fact that you're coaching and that confidence level. I think that's awesome, Jason. And you had the cojones to walk down and go, all right, I'll sit down and tell him about my dad. I don't mind one bit. Listen, dude, that takes big ones. Like, not everybody can sit down next to their dad and be like, all right, I'm gonna tell you about yourself. Give me a moment here. That's pretty awesome, man. That's awesome. Matter of fact, here, like I told you, I have problems finding things, but here we go. There you go. That's for you, brother. I appreciate you. So if you want, so how many copies of his book have you bought?
I have personally not bought any, but
I guess it's time to go. I guess it's time to go, isn't it, Jason? I guess it's time to go. You haven't bought books for all your fellow teachers or whatever coaches in the middle school, and Dad's got a pretty good cause behind it. I'm not just saying. I mean, maybe you're just a cheerleader. That's it. Just a cheerleader. Hey, thanks, Dad. You're doing a great job, but I got to go ahead and go now. I'm just going to throw that out there to you. Yeah. Do you feel guilty? Like now you need to go get your wallet and go buy a bunch of books? I tried, Doug. I tried.
No, hey, I did get my boss to buy one. So
yeah, Doug's boss to buy it.
That goes. I think all my friends already got one from my dad. So.
Oh, see, Doug, you're giving. See, now you got to have to add another archetype in there and call it a giver. Now we got the giver because you're just making sure everybody's got a good copy of it and they're reading up on these things. That's excellent. I mean, I love the fact that you were willing to jump on, brother, and I don't want to hold you up from anything if you got to go anywhere. I appreciate you jumping on that. That's awesome. But seriously, Doug, I mean, it's interesting to hear how others see us within these archetypes, and when they, especially once they learn that, hey, this is the way we're seeing different people in these ways. How about I guess really, because we're getting ready, we're almost done here, and there's so much information I want to glean out of this. But how about what is as somebody finishes this book? So they sit down, they finish it, and just so you know, folks, I downloaded the Audible version of it because I drive all day long. The Audible's 4 hours. If you know anything about books, a 4-hour Audible is nothing. It is literally nothing to sit down and listen to. So stop being slow and cheap and go get your copy. I bought mine. What is the one big takeaway that you're hoping that, hey, whoever in whatever field, I don't care if it's the assistant, manager at the fry counter at McDonald's or the CEO, what is the one thing you're hoping they take out of this after they read this works by you?
Yeah, Sean, it's that question, like in there, like burned into your brain. Am I building or diminishing as things come out of your mouth? But in the book, we get into it. There's a section just on like how we think, and it can't just be the things we say. It's like how we think about people. I just got done of all things. I just got done with 6 days at a summer camp with like 6 high school juniors. It's a big camp, and I went honestly because I got asked. They needed another person to go. My wife went with some girls, and I was not really looking forward to it. I was fortunate to get placed in a cabin with 6 incredible kids, and the last day I was walking up the stairs, like bringing some cleaning supplies to the room, and a guy was walking down. I do not blame him, but he looked at me. He's like, "Hey, we survived. Like we got through it." And again, no judgment on him. I get it. Like this guy might have been on his 7th camp. I don't know, but I actually went in and told the guys who I just met 6 days ago that he said that. Didn't say who it was, but just said, I told him I feel the opposite. Like you guys are amazing. And I have, Sean, I'll just say I have trained myself to think like that. I reference this book, Atomic Habits, a bunch in the book. How do we build this habit of just thinking people are good, that they're trying to do the right things? I know that's not always the case. I mean, I've been leading for 30, years in different capacities, and I know it's not always the case. But if you can rewire, like literally rewire your neural pathways to think like that as much as possible, I would love people to just take away the beginning of going there. And that diminishment can be in the form of like low expectations too. So like on both sides, like I'm going to say things that get you to be more confident, more capable, more valued. And honestly, like I hope people read the book and it's a quick read. Like, like you said, it's a 4-hour, 4-hour audio book. I think it's a 4-hour read, honestly, if you just sat down and read it, 'cause it's mostly stories. And I hope people grab it and read it. But even if they didn't, if they take that question away and start just thinking about the way you're making the people you lead feel, and what you're trying to get out of them, that would be awesome.
Remember, I told you I was a Marine for a long time. 4 hours of reading is very difficult. You can't be asking us to do that. Well, look, listen, there's a lot in that. Like, after 4 hours of reading, the squirrel in me has kicked in. I'm trying to put pictures out of the words, all those things. Well, listen, folks, as I always say, if you found me through Doug or Doug through me, take time, give it a like, share, a follow, go check out his book. You can check out buildingordiminishing.com. You can see what he has going on there. We do this every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week's guest, again, I think they're all very interesting, but we have a gentleman coming on named Frank Mesa, which I love this. He ended up as a runner-up on season 1 of The Amazing Race, which
Wow.
I've always thought that would be a cool show, but he was a runner-up. He was ended up as the runner-up on season 1. So I'm assuming you were like the next team that could have won this. But he grew up the son of a Cuban immigrant in a poverty-stricken and often violent neighborhood in Queens, New York. From there, he spent 30 years working his way from frontline to executive leadership in one of the nation's largest public transportation agencies in North America. But from here, he's developed a framework called Evolve, Revolve, Devolve to help people recognize patterns shaping their lives. So we're going to be talking about with him next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seeing what he's got going on. We got any other? Who else is the week after that one? Like, this is kind of like we're in our self-improvement theme right now. Like, it kind of goes through spells here. Yeah. So we got that one coming up. Oh, that one, I can't wait for that one. I got a friend that works with the United Nations. But do you know there's 2 parts of the United Nations? There's like the regular United Nations that we're all like, you guys are useless. And then there's like another part of the United Nations. It's the UNE or something like that. And they're like all volunteers. They're people who are actually doing all this stuff and not just talking heads. It's very, very interesting. She does that stuff. She's coming on in a couple weeks. So now listen, Doug, I'm assuming that if you didn't realize this, we're well over 300 and some episodes. We're like been doing this for a while, 6 years. And I know you listened to all of them and completely involved yourself in all of it. But just in case, and don't log off on us afterwards, we just got to talk for a moment after the show. But we always, every episode, let the guest get the final word. What's our final word for tonight?
Boy, I can say whatever I want. Go Mariners, Sean. Go Mariners. We're at a bar. Go, because it is a rough Mariners season, and it's bringing me down. It's the first year that I actually paid for a flex season tickets pass, and I feel like I lit my money on fire because they're 8 games below 500, and Cal Raleigh's hitting 154. It's a big part of my life. So, like, the other stuff's going good, but I need a little go Mariners.
Oh. I've never had someone say that. So, alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.